Hi, everybody. Welcome again. Thank you for joining again on this Monday. It's beautiful. It's beautiful here where I am in near Toronto, Ontario. We've got nice spring weather, so happy spring. And I'm joined by the lovely Sarah Sung, a woman I have gotten to know over the past year. She's fantastic, very creative, really fun, and down to earth. You'll definitely want to connect with her at Sung and Co on Instagram. So thanks for being here, Sarah. Hello,
Yay, I'm so
welcome.
excited. I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for joining because this is going to be a highly practical session, folks. If you want to know about brand identity, specifically around your course, how do you brand your courses or your offers? You're going to be learning really tactical, practical things today through this presentation. I was scrolling through the notes and I was excited because I love this topic and I'm desperate to learn what Sarah has to talk about. So, thank you for adding so much value to us in this time. I want to remind all of our listeners that I have a course booster bootcamp launching mid-April and we have opened registration. So if you are curious about how to create and actually getting done creating your very own 4-module course, you're going to want to join this booster. So let me know if you would like to talk and connect with LinkedIn and we'll get you hooked up with a link to apply. This whole series has been incredible, and we've been really lining ourselves up. We're now in number 7 episode. We're talking now about course brand identity. But let's just do a little recap of what we've had in the last 6 weeks in case you've missed out. And I want you to know that any of the replays are available. Just go to my website, and I'll put the link here where you can grab replays. They're also available on my YouTube channel, and any of the worksheets that we've included this link. So check that out. So, in the last 6 weeks, we've talked about my approach at the start of a brand new project. How do you set a new course up for success? How do you validate that idea even before you get started, even pre selling it before you make it so that you know you're putting your resources where it's best going to sell? Um, how do you clarify the difference between your learner and your buyer? This is really crucial, especially for our friends who are doing B2B type learning. And we've had 2 back-to-back weeks around brand positioning and creating your thought leadership and that thought leadership structured framework. And I'm just so grateful because these conversations that have we've been having have been very eye-opening, very inspirational, and are leading to some really exciting collaborations. So I'm so pleased that you have all been here to stick around. And now, today, in our current talk, we're going to be learning the ABCs of branding thanks to Sarah. This is her signature method: how to align your vision and strategy, build your brand identity, and cultivate your brand throughout that customer journey. So it's going to get tactical. I love the visuals Sarah uses. Um, One other thing I want to mention before we launch into the learning is I also have a webinar next week, March 31st. Already? How did that? Is it next week? Yeah. How did that time happen? It's in 2 weeks, you guys. Passive income, growth hacks to scale your business. We're having a webinar training. This you will not want to miss. There's a lot of value in that one as well. As I mentioned, grab the replays and get a free download of all the worksheets from this series at boostld.com/livestream_worksheets. All right, I'm your host, Manya Horner. I am a facilitator, a corporate trainer, a freelance curriculum designer in the old days, and now I work with entrepreneurs who are creating online learning offers. Now, what makes me different is that I have a very strong background in corporate learning. So if you're a consultant working in corporate space and you want to create new streams of revenue, or if you're creating courses and you want them to be highly professional and really work for your adult learners, that's where I can add a ton of value to you through strategy sessions one-on-one, also through this group program that's launching in April. And I'm going to be walking with you. I've got my teacher hat on this one, co-facilitating with an excellent college professor, and we're going to be helping you get a 4-module course done. So if this is on your to-do list, you want to check that out. All right, Sarah, over to you. Please
Woohoo!
introduce yourself briefly and let us know what's going on in your business world. How can we work with you and find you and all those things?
Yeah, thank you so much, Manya. I'm really excited to be here. I am a brand strategist, designer, and somewhat of a brand developer for Sung & Co., which is my business. And we specifically help coaches, consultants, and service providers kind of get out of their DIY brand they're kind of stuck between this homegrown brand and they want a very thriving brand and up level their business.
Mhm.
And but they're kind of stuck in between. They have some parts, but
Mm.
everything's kind of disconnected and inconsistent, and they don't really know where it went wrong or what's happening. So we kind of help those people kind of create a cohesive, thriving brand that really enhances who they are.
I love that. And you've decided to focus on helping coaches and consultants specifically. So
Mhm.
that's really exciting. Why do you have a passion for this area?
I'm so glad you asked. So I'm a big nerd. I love teaching. I love people who teach and educate and like want to empower other people to become like a better version of them.
Mhm.
And when I was in university almost 20 years ago, which is crazy, I had a professor tell me that I would never make it as a designer.
Mm.
And instead of going, oh, I have to change my major, ended up getting another professor for just one semester. She was just there to step in for another professor who couldn't make it for that one time,
Mhm.
for that period of time. Excuse me. And she was able to explain things in a very like consumable way that once I understood the concepts and how to apply them, everything changed for me. It was just that one semester with her that everything changed. And for me, that's really important for, I mean, coaches, that's what they
Mhm.
do is just basically break down information for someone to understand and apply it into their whatever they're working on. And so
Mhm.
um that yeah, that's what I'm really passionate. It's just like not only teaching, but helping people understand.
That's great. So, Sarah, how can we connect with you? What's the best place? Is it Instagram? Is it on your website? Where should we send people?
Instagram is easy, it's Sung and Co. You can also go to the website at sungandco.com. If you are struggling, there's always a free call that you could book a call with me. I do have a group program launching April 4th. A cart
Oh,
opens
wow.
next,
Amazing.
yeah, it's crazy. And the cart opens next Monday. And so if you want
Okay.
to go ahead and join the wait list, you can at sungandco.com/bridge the gap.
Okay. And so, what are you going to be bringing people through in that group program?
So that group program is going to really start from the very beginning and aligning their vision and their strategy. We'll go through how to build their brand identity, the foundations, and how to make sure that it's accurately representing their strategy. And
Okay.
then we'll move into the last piece, which is how to kind of implement all of those things that you've worked on your strategy, your brand visuals, and incorporate that into the rest of your brand.
Okay. So, this is like a really awesome sneak peek of what you're going to be taking people through in this program.
Mhm.
I'm really thrilled that we can be learning from you today. I feel like the timing was really serendipitous. Neither of us really planned this timing out, but it feels right. So I'd like you, as the listener, the viewer, just to think for a second: what would like life look like if you already reached that dream of having a finished course? Next week, or on March 31st, I'm going to be helping you envision and be inspired about what a 4 module course could actually do for your business. It's the foundation of a group coaching program, of a licensed model, of an evergreen program. It can bring huge amounts of revenue into your business, and a beautifully well branded, aligned look and feel for your course will just take it to that next level for your reputation. So just envision what like life would look like if that course was already created, and allow yourself to feel that feeling, because it can lead to massive breakthroughs in your business. We're going to just help you in this journey, the steps to get there. And I've already summarized in the last number of weeks kind of how to get through that. And so if you want to watch those replays, please do. They're very, very valuable. They're all highly practical. So I encourage you to connect on those. Okay, so this was a question I had, Sarah, and I'm putting you on the spot here, but when do you know that you're ready for a course brand? At what point, in your opinion, should you be really figuring out the brand identity or the look and feel of this course? Is it
That's
when you have an early idea, or is it sooner than that? Like when? If you could
That's actually
walk
a
us through
really
your
great
thought.
question. Yeah, so it's after you have your strategy in place. So for course branding specifically, it's a little different than the regular branding process. You should, at this point, already know who your brand is for your business. Like, you already know
Mhm.
your target audience, you already know your brand personality, your core values, and your course brand is basically just an extension of that. It's like a
Okay.
small variable. Like, if you had a kid, like, that kid is an extension of you, right?
Okay, I like that. Okay, perfect. So that's really good to know. So you should already have your main business brand in place. And then we're looking at creating sort of like a subset of that in a way.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to you here. Talk us through this cute little picture.
Okay, so I know that a lot of coaches right now are really struggling with their brand, and maybe they feel a little embarrassed because they actually have all this knowledge and expertise, but maybe they don't really know how to communicate their story. They don't know how to help people in a very cohesive way, or maybe their visuals don't really match the level of expertise they have. So it's a little disconnected. And so we just basically help people who are stuck in this brand gap, this in between place, and just help them get to the place, uh, have a thriving brand that they absolutely love. So we basically simplify the branding process so it's easy to understand, easy to learn, easy to remember, and we call that the
Hmm.
ABCs of branding. And the ABCs of branding is just a way for us to simplify the process. For me, it's really hard for me to remember like terminologies, especially if you're not familiar with something. So we
Hmm.
decided, hey, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to call it the ABCs of branding. And what that stands for is align, build, and cultivate. And that's the order you need to do when you're building a brand. So what I mean by align is make sure that your core values are matching up with what your mission is, what your vision is. It needs to match up with your target audience. You need to know exactly who your ideal clients are. Um, really understand what your personality is. A lot of
Hmm.
people say like, "Oh, I want my brand to be super fun. I'm gonna throw in all these neon colors, all these like organic shapes that are super trending right now." But in
Hmm.
reality, that's not what their personality is. And so when we're going into the visual of it, you want to represent who you are accurately. So, if you're like a fun brand and you have all these visuals and then they tune into your course and it's like super dry, there's a huge disconnect, right? Or if your social media is like you're doing all these reels because that's what's trendy, and then when they get to your website, it's like, is this the same company? Like it,
It's like super buttoned up. Yeah,
yeah,
I see what you mean.
exactly.
And
And then
I'm sorry. I know you're coughing. You're recovering from a cold. So if you need any break, just let me know and I will ask questions. But one of the questions that I had was, should your brand align with me, business owner, and the way I show up? Should it be based on my authenticity or should it be aligned with the person I'm trying to attract into that course?
that's a really great question. So it's a little bit of both. Um, I feel like if you have a brand, like a personal brand, it should really reflect who you are, but also attract your ideal client. So I know that for me personally, I'm an introvert. So somehow I gravitate towards introverted people, right? We kind of gravitate towards people who are similar to us.
Mhm.
So if you are trying to reach people who, like, if you want a luxury brand who's like high touch, premium services, but your graphics look very DIY, there's a huge disconnect there.
Mhm.
So, like, what is your personality? If you're more of like an analytical type of person, your ideal clients will probably be that too, because that's just who you are. I hope that makes a
Right.
little
So,
bit of sense.
yeah, so you will tend to attract people that are similar to you in a lot of ways. If
Mhm,
you are putting out a personal brand, you kind of attract similar people
mhm.
through the look and feel and the way you present. I think that's true and makes a lot of sense. So that's always my question because I'm always thinking, for myself. Do I want this to be a personal brand, or do I want this to be something that sort of is its own thing that I'm just a founder of? So there's always this like internal battle.
Yes.
And I think others feel that too. And we can see other thriving course businesses that, the founder is the face, but then you see others where you don't really interact with the founder. So there's different approaches. And I guess this is where, working with you will help with our unique situation.
And then if you want to do it more like you want a personal touch, but you want to become across as more of a corporate brand or a company versus a person, that's when you kind of navigate towards like, okay, who does my company become personality
Mm.
wise?
Mhm.
If my company was a person, who would that be?
Mhm.
If that makes any sense.
I think that's really great, and I love that you said it, and I'm gonna consider that even for myself.
So, ABCs of branding. B is the next, I guess, piece, and it's focusing on the brand visuals, which is brand identity. And that's when you go through your mood board, your logos, your responsive logos, your color palette, font pairings, icons, textures, any patterns. We go over photography direction because I know that a lot of people
Mhm.
struggle with imagery. And then we put it all together in a brand guide. And a lot of people think, oh, I have a brand guide, right? It's a one sheet. It tells me what colors, tells me what hex colors code it is, tells me the fonts. But a brand guide really is like a North Star for your brand. So in there, it should include your personality, what your mission is, how to use your colors, like what is your main color, brand color, how to create sub brands, what does your voice sound like, what type of language you would use. So anytime you would hand that off to someone else, they would completely understand who your brand is. Even for us as business owners, we should have one to remind ourselves so we don't kind of like lose track of who we are.
It's such a good point, and I'm just absorbing all this for myself, and I'm thinking I need to actually expand my brand guide a little bit because, as you mentioned, a lot of those pieces are sort of laying outside of one cohesive document. But the risk of that is now that I have a team, there's more explanation needed. So
Yes.
you really do want to have everybody just grabbing one document, knowing exactly how to use it.
Yep. Yep. So after B, we go to C, which is cultivate. And that's really the development of your brand. So, how do we take your visuals and create custom branded templates to work more efficiently, but still look like our brand? We kind of go into creating infographics, timelines, how you set up your client testimonial graphics, anything to help you work efficiently, but still branded to your business. And of course development, how you can make really engaging workbooks and resources specifically for your course and your ideal clients. Digital products, which, I don't know about you, but it's like, oh man, I have a list of things that you could do.
Mhm.
How does that align to your business? Because we don't want to stray away from that. Lead magnets, how to get people into your business. And then we go over website and landing pages.
This is a ton and so important. This is the part everybody's hankering for, right? This is the end result everybody wants. So it's awesome. You're taking us through a full journey in the ABCs of branding. Okay, so what's up next?
Okay, so today we're going to be focusing on brand identity for your course specifically. And I mentioned it a little bit before, but the process for branding your course is a little bit different from branding your business because you're basically creating an extension of what's already established. So, course branding your course is sort of like a sub brand. So sub brands are like slight variations from the main brand, but they share the fundamental elements like your colors, your fonts, your personality, your target audience, and all of that stuff. So all of that is still the same as your main brand, but it's just kind of an extension. So I know that a lot of people have pets. They like to
Mhm.
dress their pets similar to them. That's like a mini brand, right? Like, kids, if you have kids, they're like a mini brand of who you are. So it's not a complete uh different brand, but it's like a part of it.
Well, and if it's totally different, people get confused, right? And what we want to do is make sure that our content looks cohesive. So when people see it, they go, oh, I know who that is, right? We're trying to create that recognition and consistency.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the first step, really to kind of create a brand for your course is this is just an example. So like, let's say this is your color palette. How do you create a sub brand or like, I guess, a sub color palette for your course using this color palette? So let's take our brand color palette. So there's like, yep, 6, I guess, colors. And then maybe your main color palette would be these 4. And the
And this is
one,
for your business here, the main
yes,
color
this
palette
is
for your
for your
business?
business. Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Thank you. And let's say the main color that you normally use is that blue. Like blue is your
Okay.
main color, but the other ones you use pretty often. So then knowing that, we go to the next step, which is like, okay, for a course, which is like a subset of your main brand, you would take one of the colors that you use. So let's say for this example, we'll take the cyan. And you want to make sure that your color palette has a light and a dark so that you have contrast when you're using it through your website, your content, your resources, anything like that. So out of that blue, you just make like a lighter version of it and then a darker version. So you have like a light, medium, and dark. And then you would throw in an accent color. This is like probably the easiest way to create like a sub color palette, but it's not the only way. This is probably the
Okay.
easiest way. And then
Okay.
we have another example, just because I love examples. Let's say that the pink is a color that you want to use for your course. So you want to make sure you have a lighter version and then a darker version of that, and then an accent. So I use the dark purple as an accent on this one because all the other colors were super light. So you want to have
Mhm.
a contrasting supporting color. Did you have any questions on that specifically
Sorry,
before?
let me go back. No, I am loving this because again, I'm thinking about my own situation and a lot of times we do have the skills to be able to do this, and we want to just kind of like move with pace and we don't always have a graphic designer totally on retainer or whatever. So it's nice to have these simple ideas and we don't have to overcomplicate it.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
no questions. I think this is fun and great.
Okay, cool. So, and then we move into the font pairing,
Mhm.
and you always have to have like a heading, a subheading, and body copy for your business, for your main brand. And I kind of break it down to like headline, subheadline 1, subheadline 2, body copy, and then an accent font. So this is like I guess, the minimum amount that I include in a brand guide.
Mhm.
And I also put in like how to use them. So what it would look like if it was like there was real text. Because like headline, subheadline 1, subheadline 2, yeah, that's awesome in theory, but how do we apply that? So the easiest thing to do for a sub brand is really just changing out the colors. And
Okay.
it takes on its own personality. However, if you want to do something a little bit more, I guess a little bit more different. I don't know if that's the correct grammar, but you could actually just change one little thing, and I would say the accent fonts, because you don't want to change anything too drastic to make it look like a completely different brand. But if you change just one little thing, color alone will help it a lot. But if you change the accent font and how you apply it, it kind of takes a life of its own, but still feeling very familiar.
And this is really subtle.
Hmm.
So that's something else I thought I would just ask you. When you're doing your brand guide, do you always try to keep the colors really clear as to how they're used within the accent and headline? Because this would look totally different if you had your pink or your yellow in these areas, right?
Yes, exactly. So in our brand guides, we always have what you would use for the main business, and then
Mhm.
also have a mini brand guide for your course.
Okay.
It's always good to have more information than less information.
This is making the organizer in me, like, just wanna squeal. I love being organized, and I always feel like I'm not organized enough, and this is making me feel like I'm not organized enough.
And also too, like, having
Oops.
examples in your brand guide will help you kind of figure out,
Mhm.
like, "Okay, how
Mhm.
do I apply this?" And not just, like, guessing. So,
Well, and it's so important too, like, how your logo is used. Does it
yep.
get crammed in here, or does it have to sit on its own with space around it? Like, those things are very important to lay out in your brand guideline.
Exactly. So then we'll move on to the logos and submarks, which I feel like a lot of people tend to think overcomplicate logos sometimes, but it's very important to keep logos simple and clear.
Mhm.
So for the logos and submarks for your brand specifically, you're just basically the easiest way and I feel like it's the most efficient way is to take your logo, your main logo, and just either change the colors. That's enough to, kind of differentiate it from the main brand. But then also you can make little tweaks. So, um, for example, and maybe your sub brand has a little icon in it. Maybe it's stacking it versus going completely horizontal. Or maybe you're taking it and you're taking the sub brand part and like capitalizing that, and your course tagline is it's like a title case instead of all
Mhm.
just like making those little tweaks. I mean, it still looks really different, but it's still in the same family. So for me personally, I would probably either go to this one on the left here or the one above it because it still feels very similar to the main brand and just like making a little tweak.
Yeah, it does feel really similar. And it's cute. Like, this one's cute with the little icon because you can add more personality to your offer or to your course or your group program. You can actually add some personality that
Mhm.
with that icon. So that's cute.
Yep. And then for pattern and shapes,
Mhm.
so let's say these are your main brand pattern and shapes that you use throughout your brand. And I did something a little bit more fun just because my brand is overall a little bit more fun. But
Mhm.
if you're trying to create shapes for your sub brand, you don't have to start from scratch. You can actually just change the colors because that alone visually will help differentiate it. But if you
Mhm.
wanted to take it a little step further, right now the main brand shapes, they're kind of organic, they're a little fun, but they're like, I'm fun, but also buttoned up a little bit, right? I'm
Mhm.
still a little professional. But if you want to get a little bit more creative with it, you can just create more organic shapes and kind of exaggerate their personality a little bit more.
That's fun. So if I'm kind of like blocking out the middle one here and looking
Mhm.
at the one on the left, your main brand with the sub brand, yeah, you still see a lot of the same personality. I wonder like how this would look if you kept the same. No, that wouldn't work. I was just
Colors.
thinking if you kept the same colors of your original brand and just changed the shape, that might look kind of neat too. I
I
guess it
mean,
would defy starting with the color palette though.
well, you actually don't necessarily have to change the color palette. Like, you're
Mm,
right, you can absolutely just change the style a little bit. But again, it's like really depends on like who your target audience is. Like, I have a
mhm,
course that's coming out. Is how to build interactive PDFs.
mhm.
It actually uses my main brand colors. I just kind of changed the shapes a little bit, so it's a little bit more fun versus a little more professional, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, cool.
And then you have your brand elements, and I'm such a dork. I love putting all the details in the little things. So your brand icon might be a heart, but then your sub brand you can split it up and have it just have like a slightly different style. You could even do outline of a heart instead, but just keeping the same shape. So it's like the main brand, but just having a little twist to it. And it doesn't have to be extreme because when you're looking at everything, like right now, we're just looking at a heart and the sub brand icon. Like those two things, you might think, oh, they're too similar. But when we're looking at the overall either workbook or your slides, those little things will actually have a bigger impact.
What's a company who does this well? Like I'm thinking maybe even of Apple or something where the apple has changed. Sometimes they'll change color or they'll change like symbolism in it
Oh
depending on what they're
man,
doing. I'm thinking like I feel like there's some big brands that do this and
there
it's super
are. I
subtle.
just I'm sorry,
Well,
I'm on the spot, so I'm like, "Oh my gosh, my brain is like,
but even Google does it, right? Like Google does it
mhm,
on their main Google page. They
right,
take their brand and they just change the icons or they turn the
mhm."
O into a little person or a thing. Like they just play around with it, but it's so recognizable. It really works.
Yes, and, for them, that's part of who they are, right? They're innovative, they're
Mhm.
creative.
Mhm.
I normally don't suggest changing up your logo because you wanna make sure that it's
Mhm.
the same all the time, but I have a client who it's like a really her website's gonna be launching pretty soon, but she is so fun and she's taking her space and approaching it a little bit differently. And she likes to throw themes. So I'm like, you
Mm.
know what? Your logo should have different themes when you put it on. It'll still look the same, but changing it up just for that theme. So I feel like there's always an exception to the rule. So
Yeah, absolutely, and for that person, it'll be very authentic to her, right?
exactly. Exactly.
Cool.
And then we move to Cultivate, which is the part that I'm like, I am nerdly excited about because it's like, okay, you've done the hard work, you've done like the
Mhm.
alignment of your strategy, and it's super hard. It takes a lot of brain power. And then also like your visuals, you want to make sure that it's authentically representing who you are. And then it's like, okay, now that you know who you are, what you look like, now it's kind of like, okay, let's take it and apply it to other things in our business. So if you are a creative brand, like let's do creative things. Let's make our icons a little bit different. Let's make our website look a little bit different. So in the cultivate part of our ABCs of branding process, how do we take that into your social media templates? How can we make our infographics really fun, but also still fit with our brand? How do we create our client testimonials, your course development? Like, is there anything in your workbook or resources to make it a little bit different from everybody else? Right? Like, I feel like the tendency is to find a template, cram our content in there, and
Mhm.
then like send it out into the world. But now you have to stand out. There's so many people. There are so many coaches and consultants and online businesses. If you take the time to really dive in and figure out how do we make this us, like
Mhm.
uniquely us, like you'll be able to stand out. So like for workbooks, I encourage clients to make them interactive and incorporate their personality in not just like the visuals, but how the workbook functions and of course like the copy. And then you have
And
your
you're really good at that too. You make really great interactive course books and ebooks and workbooks. I think that's something that really stands out from what you do really well. So I would encourage you, if you are somebody who wants to make a really cool interactive workbook or course, definitely talk to Sarah about that because that's one thing you're really talented in.
oh, thank you so
Um, yeah, okay, awesome. So this is the application, right? This is the
much.
how do we present ourselves and kind of wrap ourselves and dress ourselves for the rest of the world for them to see everything.
Mhm.
Um so you yeah, okay, great. So I'm just wondering, oh, I don't want to end yet. Do you have anything else to add before we kind of move on to the last bit and kind of summarize what we've just talked about today?
I would say this is probably the thing that I want people to remember is when you're building your website or building whatever it is you're building, visuals or workbooks, I feel like people tend to have like the out of sight, out of mind mentality. So they forget all the strategy work that they've done. They forgot about all the foundational visuals that they've done. And they're like, I'm only going to work on the website, nothing else. Like they just
Mm,
forget about everything else. So people always ask me like, well, how do I incorporate more personality into my website? Right? Think about your ideal clients and their personality, who you are as your brand personality. Incorporate
mhm,
the language that you use into your website. It doesn't have to like making your brand fun is not only visuals. Like it's the copy, it's the way you present it. There's like so many things. So I feel like I need to remind people like just because you checked off your strategy doesn't mean that it doesn't apply to the rest of your brand.
that's
Just
right. You have
always
to actually
keep going.
now infuse that into everything.
Yeah, exactly.
These are the building blocks of the foundation. Well, thanks, Sarah. This was so simple. It's so simply complex. Like I love that you presented it in your classic simple way and the ABCs of branding. And I feel like it's something we can all do. We can have a nice, clean, and clear brand if we follow this process. Definitely check out Sarah's program that's coming up. Get on the wait list for that. It's worth investing in these foundations of your business. And my question is, would you like to continue developing this journey that you're on until you have this clear brand and also a clear offer that comes out of your thought leadership, that comes out of your brand, the who you are, the who your audience is? If this is the journey you're on, stick with us because we're here to support you. You can keep moving forward on your own, but you could run the risk of being in the same place next year. I've worked with a lot of clients who they said, wow, like I've thrown out 3 or 4 courses before working with you because they just weren't good enough. They were not meeting my reputation in the market. And I get that. So I don't want you to be in the same place next year with a course still on your to do list. Um, I'm here to support you with that, aligned with great people like Sarah with programs that are very complementary to building your business and creating your offer. Just a reminder again, March 31st at noon Eastern Time, I'm running a great training. This is going to inspire you and open up your mind to the possibility of growth using a simple 4 module course. Some business models in here that you probably have never considered, and all with a simple foundation. Sarah, this is a tagline that I always end with or start with. Don't be offended, friends who are here listening, by your ability to create a beautifully branded learning offer. Sarah has gone to school for this. I've gone for this. We've had long careers already in these areas of expertise. So don't be offended if, you're new to business or you're just like, I don't know if I can do this. We're here to help you. We've got lots of ways to work together, either one-on-one or in a group container like we have, or in our smaller courses and offers. The beautiful thing about us creators is there's lots of sort of entry points to start working together with either Sarah and I. And I've got one more live stream happening next week on Monday. Please join me for that. And then also sign up for the culminating webinar March 31st. That's going to launch us into the boot camp mid-April. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send me a message on LinkedIn. I love talking with people there. And please connect with Sarah. You can do it. Right? We've got a well proven process. We'll guide you through this transformation, and we are your trusted partners in that journey. So, Sarah, does it cost anything to book a call with you?
Calls are absolutely free.
Okay.
You can do that by sungandco.com/discover. And it's just a way for us to kind of untangle like what's happening into your brand and what we can do to like help you move forward.
That's great. So don't hesitate to connect with both Sarah and I. We'd love to have you as part of our communities and engage with you in ongoing discussion, because that's really the only reason why we're out here doing this. It's to engage with you and to help you. So thanks again for joining the live stream. I'm one of those awkward people that waves at the end. Thanks for joining me, Sarah, and explaining this really beautiful process.
Awesome. Thank you, Manya.